The American Mafia runs on a corporate structure more organized than most Fortune 500 companies. Every position, every promotion, every murder follows a chain of command that survived a century of FBI investigations. That's why I'm breaking down all 8 ranks in the traditional Mafia hierarchy, and what each one actually does, starting with the guys who don't officially exist. Associate. The associate is the most dangerous position in organized crime, and it's not even officially part of the organization. Before you assume that means they're safe, hear me out. Associates do the exact same criminal work as made members: robbery, assault, murder. The difference is they get zero protection and can be killed on a soldier's whim without requiring approval from the boss. Associates outnumber made men roughly 10-to-1 in most crews. They generate money, kick a percentage up to their soldier or capo, and hope that someday they might get made. Some associates work for decades without ever becoming members. Henry Hill spent 25 years under Capo Paul Vario in the Lucchese family, participated in the 1978 Lufthansa heist worth $5.8 million, and never got made because his father was Irish. Same with Jimmy Burke, the actual mastermind of that heist. But here's where it gets weird. Some associates are more powerful than most made men. Meyer Lansky, the mob's accountant, controlled an estimated $300 million, despite being permanently barred from membership because he was Jewish. Corrupt NYPD detectives Louis Ippolito and Stephen Caracappa functioned as literal mob hitmen while remaining associates. The position exists because the Mafia needs a labor pool it can sacrifice without consequences. Every risky job, every task that might attract federal attention, gets handed to associates. If they succeed, great. If they get arrested or killed, nobody cares. But if you think being expendable is dangerous, wait until you see what happens when you actually take the blood oath. Soldier. Becoming a soldier is the most important transition in a mobster's entire career. And the ceremony that makes it happen is literally bathed in blood. The rank carries dozens of names: soldado, made man, man of honor, friend of ours, wise guy, good fella, button man. But the most accurate term is straightened out, because that's exactly what the ritual does. It takes a disposable criminal and transforms them into an untouchable member, protected by a blood oath that binds them until death. Here's the thing. Not everyone can become made. You need Italian descent, originally full Sicilian, but later relaxed to half Italian through the father's side. You need sponsorship from a made man who's known you for 10 to 15 years. You need commission clearance where your name gets circulated among all 5 families to check for objections. And traditionally, you needed to make bones, kill someone to prove loyalty. The ceremony itself was documented by FBI recordings in 1989, when they bugged a Patriarcha family induction in Medford, Massachusetts. The process follows exact steps that haven't changed in a century. The candidate enters a room with made members present. A gun and knife are placed on the table. The boss asks in Sicilian, "You'll use these for us, right?" Then comes the punciuta. The trigger finger is pricked with a pin. Blood drips onto a holy card bearing an image of the Virgin Mary or a saint. The card is set on fire and passed hand to hand while the candidate swears. "As burns this saint, so will burn my soul. I enter alive and I will have to get out dead." That burning card represents omerta, the code of silence. Break it, and you die. Cooperate with police, you die. Harm another made man without permission, you die. But here's the kicker. Once you take that oath, you become untouchable. Any associate can be killed on a whim. Any made man who gets killed requires the boss's explicit approval. That protection is the single most valuable thing membership provides. Sammy Gravano was made in 1976 and confessed to 19 murders before breaking omerta in 1991. His testimony brought down John Gotti, the boss of the Gambino family. He became the highest-ranking made man to ever cooperate, and it shocked the entire underworld because the oath was supposed to be unbreakable. Not all families took the ceremony seriously. The De Cavalcanti family boss abolished the gun, knife, and burning card in 1962, calling them unnecessary theater. The Chicago outfit barely had ceremonies at all, but the protection remained the same. Made men were sacred, at least until they wanted to move up to the next level and run their own crew. Capo regime. The capo is where soldiers stop being foot soldiers and start being commanders, and the money they generate is absolutely insane. Capo regime translates to head of the regime in Italian. Most people just call them capos, captains, or skippers. They run crews, which are essentially franchises of the larger family. Each crew operates its own territory with its own rackets: extortion, loan sharking, illegal gambling, labor racketeering, protection schemes. The capo oversees it all. Here's how the structure works. A typical crew has 10 to 20 soldiers, plus anywhere from 50 to 200 associates. Money flows upward constantly. Associates pay soldiers. Soldiers pay the capo. The capo pays 10 to 20% to the administration. A major family might have 4 to 6 crews, sometimes up to 10. The numbers are staggering. Paul Vario's crew at JFK Airport was described as the crew's personal Citibank. They were pulling in an estimated $25,000 per day from airport operations alone. Documented Lucchese Capo earnings included $15,000 to $20,000 monthly from Long Island garbage companies, $75,000 monthly from air freight kickbacks, and over $200,000 annually from garment district rackets. But the capo's most important function is serving as a buffer between leadership and street crime. John Gotti became capo of the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club crew in 1977. His crew became the biggest earners for underboss Agnello Della Croce. Gotti's reputation as a moneymaker gave him the leverage to orchestrate boss Paul Castellano's murder on December 16, 1985, and seize control of the entire Gambino family. Anthony Gaspi Picasso rose from capo in the Lucchese family to consigliere and then underboss. He confessed to involvement in 15 to 36 murders and employed corrupt NYPD detectives as personal hitmen. He even orchestrated a car bomb that killed Gambino underboss Frank DeCicco in 1986. But here's where it gets complicated. A capo cannot authorize murders without boss approval. They command their crews but answer to the administration. Yet some capos become so powerful they effectively control the family despite not being boss. The position is middle management on paper, but can wield top-tier influence in practice. And that influence only grows when a capo gets promoted to the administration itself. Street boss. The street boss is a position that technically doesn't exist in the traditional hierarchy, but it's one of the most powerful innovations in modern organized crime. Here's the thing. The official structure goes soldier, capo, underboss, boss. But smart bosses realized they were exposing themselves to massive federal scrutiny by running day-to-day operations, so they created a workaround, the street boss. Vincent Gigante pioneered this concept in the Genovese family. Gigante was the actual boss from 1981 to 2005, but he stayed completely hidden. He famously wandered Greenwich Village in a bathrobe, pretending to be mentally ill, earning the nickname the Oddfather. Meanwhile, he appointed street bosses to run operations and absorb all the law enforcement heat. Liborio Barney Bellomo served as Gigante's street boss from 1988 to 1996. Ernest Muscarella took over in 2000. These guys handled the daily management, coordinated crews, enforced discipline, and made operational decisions. But Gigante remained the actual boss, pulling strings from behind the scenes. The FBI spent years surveilling the wrong people. The Chicago outfit perfected an even more elaborate version. Tony Accardo installed a string of front bosses: Sam Giancana, Joey Aiuppa, Jackie Cerrone, while remaining the real power for over 4 decades. These front bosses took all the media attention in federal investigations, while Accardo controlled everything from the shadows. The acting boss is slightly different. This position exists when the official boss is imprisoned, in hiding, or incapacitated. The acting boss runs the family in the boss's name temporarily, but here's where it gets messy. Some families use ruling panels of 3 to 5 members when the boss goes away. The Genovese family operated this way after Gigante's 1997 incarceration. They divided leadership responsibility to make it harder for law enforcement to target anyone specifically. Consigliere. The consigliere is the only person in the entire mafia hierarchy who can tell the boss he's wrong and live to talk about it. The word was basically unknown in English until Mario Puzo's 1969 novel The Godfather introduced it. The 1972 film made it famous. Consigliere means counselor in Italian, and that's exactly what the position is. Chief advisor to the boss on all major family matters. But here's what makes this rank completely different from every other position. The consigliere is not in the direct chain of command. They rank third in the administration after the boss and underboss, according to FBI classifications. But they don't command crews. They don't give orders to soldiers. Their power is purely influential. According to Joseph Bonanno's memoir, A Man of Honor, the consigliere is uniquely permitted to argue with or challenge the boss's decisions. Nobody else in the family has that privilege. An underboss who openly disagrees with the boss risks demotion or death. But the consigliere can say you're making a mistake, and the boss has to listen. The position is supposed to be elected by family members, but in practice the boss almost always appoints someone he trusts completely, often a close friend, sometimes a blood relative. The selection prioritizes professional expertise, legal knowledge, accounting skills, legitimate business connections. Frank Costello served as consigliere for the Luciano family before becoming acting boss. Carlo Gambino maneuvered himself into the consigliere position under boss Albert Anastasia before orchestrating Anastasia's 1957 murder and taking over what became the Gambino family. But the position can be dangerously deceptive. Frank Bompensiero was appointed consigliere of the Los Angeles family in 1976, specifically to lower his guard before they killed him in 1977. Underboss. The underboss is the single most dangerous position in the Mafia hierarchy. Frank DeCicco became underboss of the Gambino family after helping John Gotti murder boss Paul Castellano. 6 months later, DeCicco was blown apart by a car bomb planted under his Buick. Agnello Della Croce served as Gambino underboss for 20 years before dying of cancer in 1985. Albert Anastasia used his underboss position to orchestrate his boss Vincent Mangano's murder and seize control. The position is called sottocapo in Italian, but the most accurate description is heir apparent, because that's what every underboss is being groomed to become. Here's how it actually works. The boss focuses on strategy and staying insulated from criminal liability. The underboss runs everything else. They supervise all capos directly, ensure the boss's orders get executed, oversee money flowing from crews to leadership, and serve as chief enforcer. The underboss has direct line authority over every capo in the family. They can issue orders in the boss's name. And critically, they're first in line to become acting boss when the boss goes to prison. But the power varies wildly depending on the boss's management style. Some underbosses are figurehead appointments meant to balance competing factions. Others wield independent power rivaling the boss himself. Sammy the Bull Gravano became Gambino underboss in 1986 under John Gotti. He confessed to 19 murders when he flipped in 1991. His testimony brought down Gotti and implicated 29 other mobsters. But here's the dark reality. The underboss is always one murder away from becoming boss or one betrayal away from getting killed. And that's the position right below the man whose word is literally law in the family. Boss. The boss is the closest thing the Mafia has to a king, and their authority is absolute within the family. The titles vary. Don, Godfather, Capo di Familia, Capo Crimine, the Old Man, the Skipper. But regardless of what you call them, the boss's word is law. FBI documentation states it exactly that way. Their decisions cannot be appealed, their orders cannot be refused, and their authority cannot be challenged by anyone except the consigliere in private. Here's what the boss actually controls. Every major family decision, every significant murder, every new member getting made, and every dollar flowing through the organization. They receive tribute from every criminal operation in the family. They resolve disputes within the family and with other families. They represent the family on the commission. And critically, only the boss can authorize killing a made man. The path to becoming boss follows several routes. Succession from underboss is most common to prove new bosses before they can officially take power. Carlo Gambino ran the Gambino family from 1957 to 1976 and became the most powerful don of his era. He died of natural causes in bed, one of the extremely few bosses to achieve that. John Gotti became Gambino boss in 1985 and transformed into a media celebrity. He violated every rule of traditional mob discretion and died in prison in 2002. Vincent the Chin Gigante ran the Genovese family from 1981 to 2005 while pretending to be insane. He forbade his men from even speaking his name under penalty of death. But here's what nobody talks about. Multiple bosses have controlled their families from prison cells. The position doesn't end when you get arrested. There is no formal retirement. A boss cannot be harmed without commission approval, Violating that rule means death. But there used to be one rank even higher than boss. Boss of all bosses. Salvatore Maranzano declared himself Capo di tutti capi in April 1931. He held the title for exactly 6 months before Lucky Luciano had him murdered and deliberately abolished the position forever. The title meant supreme authority over every mafia family in America. But Luciano understood something Maranzano didn't. The title created perpetual warfare. So after ordering Maranzano's execution, Luciano did something revolutionary. He refused the title and created the commission instead. The commission was a board of directors for organized crime, approving new bosses, mediating conflicts between families, authorizing killings that cross family lines, and setting policy for all families. No official Capo di tutti capi has existed since Maranzano's death. According to Mafia historian Salvatore Lupo, the media's emphasis on the definition of Capo dei Capi is without any foundation. That's the fundamental shift Luciano created. The title of boss of all bosses died with Maranzano, and it's never coming back. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.